Hello, hello, hello. The mask is back, and what a great card this was. I must say, it went almost perfect. Almost perfect. Okay? But, I mean, it was still pretty good, and I was practically almost perfect at one point. If it weren't for the Woodson fight, the Mitchell fight, and the Chandler fight, I would have had a perfect card again. And, I got the UFC Mexico card perfect, so, I mean. I'm pretty good on the fights right now, at least predictions. You have to admit there. I mean, come on, it speaks for itself. But I know some other UFC predictors, YouTube predictors of MMA have gotten this card pretty well as well. But I think I did probably some of the best of any predictions on this card, I'd say. And starting with this fight, I mean, I didn't expect it to be a finish, as usual with women's MMA, but Nora Carinole, she ended up getting taken down in the first round pretty easily, and then in the second round, she actually, I believe there was some kind of a reversal in the position. I forgot who actually went for the takedown, who had gone for it, but ultimately, I believe it was an armbar. Yeah. No, rear naked choke. Oh yeah. I think that she did go for an armbar though, and then eventually transitioned into a rear naked choke. Either way, surprising because she's usually known for her striking, so impressive performance for Nora Carinole. And Haley Cowan, she probably should just exit the UFC because, I mean, maybe she could beat some cans, but I don't see how she gets far in the UFC. I mean, she did okay in the first round, but it was most control time. And then Marco Tulio versus Tresean Gore. Yeah, pretty much what I expected, except I expected it sooner. I was surprised how much he went for the body actually, because in his first fight in UFC, he was kind of headhunting a little bit more, I think. And he definitely keeps his chin up high, which is not good for him. But the body shots, the variety in his types of shots that he went for, the spinning kicks, the teeps, the body punches, and then to upstairs, and then sometimes like kicks. Definitely great stuff from Marco Tulio. And yeah, I mean, he's a prospect to look out for. Just got to tighten up the defense because he's not all there on the defense. I mean, Tresean Gore is not really known for his striking, and he was kind of jabbing his head up in moments, kind of popping it back. And then Sumodarji, Mitch Raposo, pretty much what I expected here, except I expected Sumodarji to be a little bit more dominant. I expected him to get maybe a 30-27 scorecard, but I mean, you could argue that he got 3 rounds. I don't think you should though. Um, yeah, round three was the one in the air, the question, the round up in the air, so to speak, and Sumaduerji basically just got it off of being a little more active in the clinch while Mitch Raposo was getting slams. Doesn't really equate to damage. So unless it's right on the head like Bilal did against Leon Edwards, on his bald spot, as MMA Joey might say. So yeah, I mean, pretty good. Sumaderji just outpointing him with strikes. And then Mikhail Oleksiejczuk versus Cedricus Dumas. I'm surprised that certain people picked Cedricus Dumas. I mean, most people picked Mikhail, but certain people who actually are decent predictors were picking Cedricus Dumas. I don't see why. I mean, unless you're looking at the records and not the fights. Because, yes, Mikhail's record isn't quite as nice looking, but against who? Sharamagomedov had a pretty decently close decision. Obviously, it should have went to Sharamagomedov, but it was still close. And then we have Kevin Holland, where he dropped him before he got subbed, but he didn't even tap, so it is what it is. And then, Michel Pereira, obviously, he's super athletic and dangerous in the first round, but Mikhail has had some great performances, and this was another one. And now he's working with the fighting nerds who have great jujitsu and pretty crazy striking as well. So maybe he could hone his jujitsu and then become a more well-rounded package with some, a little bit better striking, more so than what he already has. And Juliana Rosa versus Darren Elkins. This was just sad, to be honest. I mean, I expected Darren Elkins to maybe have a little bit better of a chin. Both of them look kind of bad, I'm just gonna say. What was it, Joe Rogan? Yeah, he was the guy on the commentary, and he was the guy that interviewed Julian Erosa. But he was saying in the interview, like, you look so sharp, your everything that was landing, your feints, your blah blah blah, your teeps, your kicks, everything. And I'm like, what are you seeing, Joe Rogan? What are you seeing? Yeah, like half of his moves were landing, it looked like. And yes, it was better than what Darren Elkins was doing, but Juicy J Julian Erosa wasn't even doing much. He was like missing half his shots. He was, Darren Elkins was sort of flopping all over the place, not even due to Julian Erosa landing that much on Darren Elkins. I might have said Julian Erosa was flopping all over the place, but either way, you get the point. Darren Elkins was just kind of getting hurt off of shots that weren't even that impactful. They didn't look like they were going 100%. Most of what Erosa was landing was like 50%, it looked like. And they both looked kind of like they were flooding in slow motion, but Darren Elkins was just a little bit slower and a little bit more withered. And ultimately, I wouldn't really want to see either guy continue that much longer, but especially Darren Elkins. He needs to retire immediately. He looked so dazed, like he was going in on a takedown on the referee, I think, at one point. um, Maybe I'm thinking of a different fight, but I'm pretty sure that was his fight. I think he was going in on a single leg at the end of the fight on the ref. And then Chase Hooper versus Jim Miller. People are saying narrative-wise, oh, it's a little more boring, Chase Hooper's performance here than what we expected. But, Jim Miller, going into this fight, he's seen Chase Hooper's sort of game, right? And Jim Miller, he's a veteran. He's more of a veteran than a Clay Guida, more of a better aging veteran, I guess you could say, than a Clay Guida. And so he's prepared. He was prepared for this style, and obviously he lost, but it was a certainly more competitive fight than people predicted. First round was pretty competitive, but then Chase Hooper begun to take over. So yeah, decent performance, and I like the Tom Nolan call out. For Aziam though, he should definitely not fight Chase Hooper. He should get a top 15 guy or someone that would get him into the top 15. Chase Hooper, I like the Tom Nolan fight. Chase Hooper and Tom Nolan are both not quite at that level yet of a Faraziem, so I would like to see one of the two prospects, you know, get a win and then get into the top 15 after that. So good performance. And then Verna Jandaroba, Yan Junyan. Uh, I was so close to getting my third round submission pick right. There were two tight submissions, I believe, in the third round, and even in the first round, Yan Zhao was saved by the bell, and even in the third round, like Verna Jandaroba, she has really good jiu-jitsu. Now, people forget that I believe that she lost to maybe not Mackenzie Dern, but definitely Amanda Ribas. I think that she also lost to Mackenzie Dern, but I'm not 100% on that. Don't quote me on that, but she definitely lost to Amanda Ribas, and that's not great, but she's improving, but I don't think that she's as good as people are hyping her up to be now. I know that people aren't hyping her up like, oh my God, she's going to be the next champion. Most people still aren't thinking that. And I think that she could be because, Wei Li Zhang, she definitely doesn't have the best jiu-jitsu defense, I would say. But it's like against Tatiana Suarez, who, even though is more of a wrestler, has implemented more jiu-jitsu stuff as the times went on. Uh, and she wasn't able to get anything on Weili Zhang. Ultimately, Verna Jandaroba, I think that she has really good jiu-jitsu, but I think her striking is what sets it up a little bit better, and her takedowns. Like Mackenzie Dern, for example, she, I think, has better jiu-jitsu, but she isn't, and Amanda Ribas had the defensive jiu-jitsu and the defense on the takedowns enough to get the decision. So against a girl like Amanda Ribas, she couldn't really get those types of things that she got on Yan Zhongyan, who isn't really that good on the ground. And then we have, Mackenzie Dern, who I think is next level on the jiu-jitsu. She just doesn't have really anything on the feet, and her takedowns aren't all that as well. So, yeah, I mean, Verna Jandaroba's good, but she's been shown that she's actually not as good on the jiu-jitsu or on the takedowns as people are being led on to believe these days off of this performance. But it's a good performance, though. I'm not denying that she deserves the title shot, but I'm just saying she's getting a little bit too much praise here. Like some people are saying, oh, she's got the best jiu-jitsu in the division. Maybe not. I think Mackenzie Dern's a little better there. And then Danny Gay, Sean Woodson, early stoppage 100%. I honestly don't think that Sean Woodson would have got stopped, but it doesn't matter that, even if he had a fair chance, a fair shake at surviving the third round, for some reason the judges had Dan Ige up on the first two rounds, which is crazy because I had Sean Woodson up on the first two rounds. It was close rounds, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they had some clear winners in those rounds just because Dan Ige was throwing heavy. Like I'm so sick of people looking like they throw heavy and then not landing at all and then they get the round. Like that's silly. Come on now. Dan Ige though, he did find the shot in the third round. He was finding his timing and he ultimately found the overhand that would rock Sean Woodson. Bedtime MMA is just defending Danny Gay and the stoppage because he picked Sean Woodson to get KO'd by Danny Gay. I'm just gonna call it how it is. He's just defending it because he got his pick right. Let's be honest. If I was gonna get something like that, if I picked Danny Gay and Sean Woodson deserved to actually go on, I would have said so. So, I mean, that's just biasy for Bedtime MMA there. Let's be honest. Dominic Reyes. I'm Dominic Reyes. I'm going to get the title shot, and he will soon. I bet it. But he's going to lose to Magomed just because defensively he's not all there for sure. But I mean, it's not as bad as what people make out. Like MMA Shea, for example, he makes it out like Dominic Reyes has the worst defense ever. And he was backing up very intelligently here. Yeah, yeah. Granted, he doesn't have a very good like guard game, or I mean, not guard on the jujitsu, but I mean, on the feet, he doesn't have very good of a high guard there, and he doesn't have good reflexes sometimes if you're athletic, and if you just find your shots, he's gonna go down, and he doesn't have a great chin, but he definitely has good footwork, and he's got a good counters. That's exactly what I was saying. I called it here. I actually called this to a T. I know that there were some people picking Dominic Reyes, but nobody picked it as good as I did. I was saying he would counter him in the first early because Nikita Krylov is like a worse version of a Dustin Jacoby on the feet with maybe better I mean not takedowns. Well, yes, takedowns, but kicks. I was talking about on the feet, so of course takedowns don't come into that. But the kicks maybe is a little better from Nikita, but on the hands he's definitely worse. He blitzes worse at you than just Dustin Jacoby. And that's what happened here. People are shocked, like, oh my gosh, how could he do that? That's Nikita Krylov's game. He blitzes at you, and sometimes he does it with the hands first and not the kicks. That's just sometimes how he comes at you, and it's not intelligent. And Dominic Reyes found the shots, and he took him seriously. If you look into the interviews that he had coming into this, he said that he's not taking him lightly, and this is how it played out, and it shows. So yeah, I'd like to see him face. I like the Alexander Rakic fight, although I think that Rakic probably wins that by a close decision, if I had to guess, just because he's more defensively responsible for sure. Sometimes he just lets a right hand go. Sometimes he doesn't throw the jab first or the kicks first. So maybe he could get caught being a little bit reckless, but he's not usually that reckless. I mean, against Yuri, he got caught a little bit, but that was just because, he let Yuri get some space and he let him control the distance, dictate the distance, and I don't think he'll do that against a more measured guy like Dominic Reyes. Jean Silva, Bryce Mitchell. Look, man, just because your prayers aren't answered doesn't mean that the right guy didn't deserve the win, the more morally just guy. I mean, John Silva was still being disrespectful at the end in the post-fight interview, so that just shows what kind of guy he is. And he was saying that he has brain damage. Bryce Mitchell said that in the what was it, the press conference, but that was just a line. He didn't actually mean that. He was just playing it up for the if they're gonna ask him that kind of a question, he's gonna make a joke of it. Oh yeah, I've always had brain damage, brother. You know? But look, man, this was a really 50-50 fight for me in the lead up. I mean, obviously John Silva on the feet is certainly better, no question. But to have the brick wall takedown defense that he did, I mean, I know that he kind of just shucked off Drew Dober, but Drew Dober doesn't have the kind of takedowns that Bryce Mitchell does. And Bryce Mitchell gone down once or twice, but he just couldn't keep him there. Immediately, John Silva would get back up, and he had the submissions. And I thought that Bryce Mitchell would, pop his head there, sort of to the side of the hip on the single legs and double legs as a bait, and that John Silva would get easily taken down because of the fact that John Silva would go for the guillotine. But even then, he still had the brick wall takedown defense. He still had the a good good strength there as well. The strength differential was apparent, and John Silva had good spinning attacks, good 1-2s, good counters, good hooks. The hooks especially, that's something that I maybe forgot to mention in the lead up to this. But I when I was watching tape, I knew that he had really good counter hooks. That's his thing. And John Silva, yeah, I mean, he should definitely fight someone like I like a Lerone Murphy matchup. I even like a Yair Rodriguez if they're willing to push him that far, but or that soon. But I like the Diego Lopez versus Yair fight better, and you'll see that coming up. But look, I mean, I was mostly basing my Bryce Mitchell pick here off of, I saw that on previous fights, John Silva actually doesn't throw that much, and he kind of covers up when he gets put on the back foot. But here he wasn't giving Bryce Mitchell any space to work with his, you know, early on he actually was doing good on the striking, Bryce Mitchell, but those pitter pat kicks weren't gonna deter John Silva for long, and he found his shots, so good on him. It was also the face-offs, he was really showing that he had the he was winning in the face-offs, and I know that that's a face-off. Like, what are you gonna really judge off of a face-off? But I mean, this was a different face-off to me. This was a different energy. This was like a Khabib Conor McGregor, where it's like the other guy was having fun, joking, playing with it, and then Bryce Mitchell was being fully serious like Khabib. So I was really high on the, you know, watching film tapes, seeing little bits of things, and then seeing the face-offs. Like, wow, he was really locked in. But I mean, I wasn't paying attention to the striking defense of Bryce Mitchell enough. I thought he could handle it, and also, you know, I wasn't paying attention to the jujitsu of John Silva as well. I mean, he looked so strong in that what was it, a ninja choke? I think so, yeah. He was looking so strong in that ninja choke, like, man, he's on another level now. So, even though I don't like him, I have to admit he's probably going to be champion. And then Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Basically what I expected here, although I did expect Yair to throw a little more. I guess he was hesitant because he didn't want to get taken down, but I mean, Patricio Pitbull, I mean, this is exactly how I predicted it, aside from the fact that he didn't quite get the KO. He did get the knockdown, but I mean, Patricio Pitbull, people were saying, oh man, he was taking the first round off, even the commentators, super dumb commentating. I mean, this is how Patricio Pitbull fights. They're like, oh, he just needs to get going. He just needs to go for it. The commentators are saying, that's how he fights. That's how he always fights. If he gets freaking reckless and just goes for a blitz, he's just gonna get freaking KO'd. Like, what do you mean? And then if he goes for a blitz and then he gets KO'd, you're like, why would he do that? Like, these commentators, they don't know what they're watching sometimes, honestly. Yair Rodriguez does have a decent counter game, really good kicks, head kicks. I mean, the 1-2 was on point. That's how he actually got Patricio Pitbull coming in, I believe. Good counter game. And he definitely doesn't deserve a title shot of a one fight win streak. That has to be Movsar. But Diego Lopez versus Yair is the fight to make. I mean, I've already said that, but it's the fight. And then Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler. I mean, come on. This was actually not expected from me. I mean, how could I know that Michael Chandler was going to get taken down by Paddy Pimblett, who has only gone for takedowns like twice in the UFC, maybe even only once. So how could you like be mad at me for expecting Michael Chandler to pop Paddy Pimblett's head back and get a KO? I mean, Paddy Pimblett's striking definitely looked way better, but he still looks stiff. I definitely think that if you put him against Justin Gaethje, like Ilya Taporia said in the JRE podcast, he would definitely win. Paddy Pimblett would definitely sub Justin Gaethje, but anyone else, I think he loses. It's don't get me wrong, it's impressive, absolutely, and he's definitely improved. He's definitely a star. He's definitely great. All that, for sure, all that is true. But Michael Chandler, this was his worst looking performance. He looked like Payson Chandler again. And then even when he went into range, he just looked so predictable. Maybe it's due to the range. Maybe it's due to the fact that Paddy Pimblett, his Distance management looked better than Charles Oliveira, which is pretty crazy. But Charles Oliveira has a better fundamental Muay Thai, so I think that he would beat Paddy Pimblett, and then he has slightly better jiu-jitsu and arguably better takedowns even. So, I mean, Paddy Pimblett is really good. I just think he's just maybe a little bit worse. Charles Oliveira, Paddy Pimblett in the every single area except for the striking. The striking's different. I think that he has better distance management, but worse boxing, kickboxing, knees, etc. So it's definitely an interesting thing for Paddy Pimblett as a contender moving forward, and I would like to see him versus Justin Gaethje. But other fights would be interesting too. But I really don't see him getting farther than he is now, to be honest, unless he, gets a Justin Gaethje, who is like 37, almost at the same age as Michael Chandler. So yeah, great performance though, not gonna lie. I just thought that the shots that Chandler would land would hurt more, and that he would be able to defend takedowns, and then his entries would be a little less predictable. Diego Lopez, Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, this is exactly how I predicted it, except for the fact that in the fourth round, Alexander Volkanovski got hurt, so he couldn't really push the pace as much as I would have liked to because I predicted around 4 KO, or TKO at least. And yeah, I mean, I honestly think that I know some people are going to disagree here. I might make a whole video on this. I still have to make the Marab Goat video, but Alexander Volkanovski is the greatest fighter of all time. I don't care what anyone has to say. Took the second what was it, Islam Makhachev fight on a short notice, uh, out of camp, 1 week notice, fat for the most part. I mean, look at that image that he had going into that. People only think about that image, and it's true. I mean, he did look out of shape. And then, he gets head kicked, but I'm sure with a full camp, he would have been more prepared for that. I mean, we know that he trains specifics, so I'm sure you would have seen in the first fight, oh, wait, actually, he does go for the head kick a little bit, and that's a weakness of mine. So, I mean, he could have definitely improved that. And, first fight, I honestly thought he won 4-1. I don't care what anyone says. I thought that Makhachev won the first round, and then the rest was Volks. I don't care what anyone says. The back take from Makhachev was like, it did nothing, okay? It was, I understand if you're actually trying to improve position with the back take, but if you're getting outdone like 3-1 in strikes, that's not going to do anything for you, the back take, in my opinion. And then Diego Lopez, he has good hooks, good uppercuts, etc. But I just knew that he couldn't judge the distance as well. And then Alexander Volkanovski, freaking outboxing Diego Lopez in those tight pocket exchanges. Crazy. He was winging these fast hooks and getting the better of Diego Lopez. Like, oh man, he's the GOAT. Six or seven, I think 7 title wins. Um, you know, Ilya Taporia, even though I disagree with this sentiment, you could argue that he took the fight too soon after the head kick KO. He wasn't doing the right game plan, etc. Oh man, his chin is not the same. It was just a lucky shot. I don't necessarily agree with all that, but he, with this fight, what he showed was he can actually fight in the pocket better. It's just he needs the right game plan, and I think against an Ilya Taporia, if he does this same kind of game plan against Diego Lopez as he does against Ilya, he could actually arguably win that. I honestly believe that he could. Now Ilya Taporia is so good as well. Ilya and Alex, and all these guys at the top, they're really good. So who knows? But and also he's going up to lightweight for good. But man, this is like really impressive. I thought that it was 49-46. The second round, you give Diego because he dropped him, but aside from that, he got rocked, almost dropped into the cage, saved Diego Lopez in that moment where they were brawling, and then Alex got the better of him in the pocket. And aside from that drop, like Alexander Volkanovski got right back up. He got dropped, but it was like a flash knockdown, really. And then the fourth round, yes, you could argue that Diego got, but again, it was just uppercut. Lots of what Diego was throwing was nothing else landing. And then, yes, Alexander Volkanovski was on the back foot, but that's because you have a dangerous guy throwing, winging shots at you. You can't really engage in that when, oh, I got an uppercut that I didn't see in my eye. So, I mean, I gave it 49-46. You could argue 50-45, you could argue 48-47. I think 49-46, one of the clearest 49-46s of all time. This was a great performance, absolutely spectacular. Thank you so much for watching. I mean, I cannot wait to see Movsar versus Alexander Volkanovski. That's the fight to make. That's the fight to see. See you soon. Like, comment, subscribe. Mask out.